Hello, Survivor. Welcome to Ark Island Lore Part 1. For this retelling of the lore, I have taken the information found in the many Explorer notes across the Ark maps and compiled them into a summarized script written by yours truly. I will be attempting to cover all of the main details of the story, so please do not be surprised if some minor details are left out. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more summarized Ark lore and other awesome Ark videos. So without further ado, let's get into it. Ark's lore can be experienced by reading the many Explorer notes found on the official DLC maps. While there are a host of side characters, Ark's main characters include people like Helena Walker, Mei-Yin, and Sir Edmund Rockwell. Other somewhat main characters include Nerva, Diana, and Santiago, among others. Each had a part to play, but if I had to choose like a main character of the story, it would definitely be Helena. With the exception of Mei-Yin, the other main characters do not start their journal entries or Explorer notes at the time they first woke up on the island, so we'll start the story with Mei-Yin. Mei-Yin originally lived in ancient China, possibly during the Qing Empire or Qing Dynasty. You can think of her as a Mulan type character because she died defending her village from those she referred to as the Yellow Turbans. Mei-Yin woke up naked and alone on a beach, just like we do when starting the game. She discovered quickly that this place was nothing like her village, and although she was full of questions as to how she got to this mysterious island, she didn't let those questions distract her from learning how to survive. While living off of the slow, dumb birds that roam the shores, she made herself some clothing and basic weapons. And none too soon either, because soon after, she found other footprints in the sand. Following the footprints, Mei-Yin came upon three men. Seeing a girl all alone, the three men attempted to take advantage of Mei-Yin, but they didn't realize they were dealing with a seasoned warrior. Mei-Yin took them out with her bow and arrows before they could even get close. Realizing that this beach was exposed and pretty dangerous, Mei-Yin decided to travel inland. This is where she discovered her first sign of civilization, a small village. When she got closer, however, she saw a man in armor riding a lizard attacking the village. He seemed to be using what Mei-Yin described as a fire stick to attack at long range while darting around on his mount. Unfortunately for the man, he didn't see Mei-Yin until she had buried 3 arrows in his back. The villagers were surprised by, but very thankful for Mei-Yin's help. In exchange for that help, the villagers gave Mei-Yin the rider's weapons and armor and taught her how to tame the giant lizards, like she had seen the armored man riding. Mei-Yin had some failed attempts, but she learned quickly, and she named her first tame Wu Jui, or Wu Zui. I'm actually not sure how to pronounce that. And that raptor became her best friend and most trusted mount. In time, Mei-Yin began to tame her own small army of raptors and became somewhat of a mercenary for hire to the village, easily defeating any other tribe who dared to attempt a raid. However, after a near disastrous encounter with a tribe that others refer to as the New Legion, she decided to start upgrading and tame even larger dinosaurs. As the days passed, she grew more distant and separated from the people living in the nearby village. Her skill with weapons and bond with creatures made others wary of her to the point that they would rather avoid her altogether if possible. Understanding this and not really seeking or caring for human companionship, Mei-Yin staked out a section of the jungle to live in on her own, protected by her army of formidable creatures. And so began the jungle reign of the Beast Queen, as she was now called by the villagers. Meanwhile, Helena Walker was busy at work in the snow region of the island. Helena Walker was a biologist who lived in Australia in the 21st century. She began her notes writing about how in awe she was of this beautiful yet strange island. In fact, one of her favorite things to do was sit up somewhere high while watching the sunset. A sunset she didn't yet know was completely artificial. Helena also read about how she was given an Argentavis named Athena by a man named Sir Edmund Rockwell. She didn't say much about how she and Rockwell met, but I think it's safe to assume that Rockwell must have woken up on the island before her, and he probably discovered and possibly rescued Helena during his travels. Now, her and Rockwell were staying with a tribe called the Howling Wolves in the colder region of the island. Being the curious scientist that she was, Helena began to notice signs that this island may not be so natural. For example, while studying the creatures of the island, she noticed that the ratio of predators to prey was way off what should be sustainable in a natural ecosystem. Of course, she knew parts of the island were not natural, like the huge obelisks and the cave she had found with an obelisk-like platform in it, but she began to suspect that the entire island was in fact all artificial. After sharing her ideas with Rockwell, he suggested that Helena head south to visit the Painted Sharks tribe and study their megalodons. She had heard that these people tamed and rode sea creatures, but she was still surprised by what she found. In a word, she thought it was absolutely ridiculous that people could tame large sharks and ride them around like jet skis. This just further cemented her hypothesis that something very wrong was going on, and these creatures were not natural, or at least not anything like the sharks back in Australia. While speaking with the Painted Sharks, or the members of the Painted Sharks tribe, they told Helena of a reclusive woman called the Beast Queen that lived deep in the jungle. Interested at the prospect of studying some of the domesticated creatures more closely, Helena set off to find this mysterious woman. While Helena was off researching the island creatures, Sir Edmund Rockwell was making his own discoveries. Sir Edmund Rockwell was an Englishman, or as he put it, a gallant gentleman and explorer extraordinaire, who lived during England's era of colonization. Being a scientist himself, Rockwell performed many experiments with plants and other foods to create all sorts of sense-enhancing recipes. However, he often got into trouble for testing the recipes on volunteers from friendly tribes. But as he saw it, it was all in the name of science, right? Who wouldn't want to sacrifice their bodies to unlock the mysteries of the universe? Rockwell also enjoyed hiking, climbing, and spelunking, which is how he came to discover a strange artifact in the depths of one of the northern caves. Upon further inspection, Rockwell found that the artifact radiated a pulse-like glow and energy. Even more mysterious, when Rockwell brought the artifact near one of the obelisk terminals, the terminal lit up. Excited by this new discovery and convinced that there must be more artifacts out there, Rockwell enlisted the help of the Iron Brotherhood tribe who, as luck would have it, had already found 3 similar artifacts themselves. In exchange for Rockwell's artifact, the Brotherhood agreed to report any of their findings to him as they continued their search of the island's mysteries. In the meantime, Rockwell had a hard time focusing on his usual recipe experiments, as his thoughts often drifted in the direction of artifacts and obelisks. You could say that he became a little bit obsessed, and even his assistant, who typically helped him out with his studies and researching different recipes, began to become a little concerned for his well-being. On the other hand, Rockwell couldn't wait to share his findings with a fellow scientist, someone like Helena. Speaking of Helena, she could currently care less about glowing artifacts and obelisks. Instead, she was up to her arms in dinosaur poop. Yep, that's right, dinosaur poop, because Helena had finally found Mei-Yin. At first, Mei-Yin was very distrustful of Helena, not quite sure what to make of her and always watching her like a hawk. And why wouldn't she be? Who, except for a mentally insane person, would want to study her dinosaurs by sifting through their excrement? Helena, on the other hand, was becoming increasingly excited and more confused by her discoveries. While studying Mei-Yin's animals, she came to the conclusion that these creatures were designed to be domesticated, or rather, they seemed to be genetically disposed to it. Furthermore, Mei-Yin had tamed a herd of herbivores for her army that she liked to use for their resistance to fire and explosives. But despite being surrounded by predators all the time, the herbivores were never touched or eaten. That did it. Helena decided that this island was not only unnatural, but it must be some kind of zoo. She couldn't wait to tell Rockwell. Alright, that concludes part 1 of our Ark Lore Island summary. More of the story will be continued in part 2. See you next time.